Okay, so a couple of housekeeping items. We operate under the Linux Foundation antitrust policy. You can find that on the Linux Foundation website. If anybody has questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you on the antitrust policies. And also the Cardea Code of Conduct, which is available on the website, and we've linked that for you in the meeting notes. Basically, the rule is to please be nice to people. Everybody here is welcome to have a voice and encouraged to engage and participate. We want to make sure that this is a welcoming community. If there's any concerns around that, then you can either reach out to Ken or I, or the other if there's an issue with one of us. And then if it goes above us, then you're welcome to reach out to the Linux Foundation on any issues that you have with our code of conduct or any conduct that happens in these meetings. Is there anybody, I know we have a small group today and I recognize most of you, but is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves today?
Hi, Kayla, this is Jeff Whitney. Just very quickly, has the basic invitation link changed? Is it your screen or is it usually Ken's? Or I'm just checking because that's why I'm late. I was on the wrong link.
Yes, we were concerned about that. We did update the Zoom this week to move it to hopefully what will be a more permanent location for it.
Okay.
And we're sort of accounting for that in terms of people coming in slowly.
Okay, great. Thanks.
No problem. Glad you found it. Anybody else want to introduce themselves for today's discussion? Okay. All right. Well, we're having some challenges making sure that everybody we need is here. So Paul Knowles has not joined yet. However, Vadim did offer to present some of the work that he's been doing on mapping the global digital health record from the California digital health record to the Cardea schema specifically. And so Vadim, if you don't mind, I would love to have you do that, sort of bump you up on our agenda here. Do you want to just remind everybody who you are before you do that? And then I can give you screen share permissions.
Sounds good. So I am the director of the credentials platform at Global ID. We are an identity management provider for digital identities for consumers. So with Global ID, you can create an identity under kind of a handle or a name. It's not a UUID, it's a name that you get, similar to kind of early days of Twitter, how you would get a handle assigned to you. And to that identity, you can attach different credentials. So we are also an identity wallet. Global ID is, of course, bigger than that, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, we're offering our identity wallet to hold credentials issued by different authorities as a result of maybe verifications of identity, or as a result of just direct issuance of credentials. So for Cardea Group, for what we're working on here, we're trying to operationalize the verification of different digital certificates out there and convert them to the Cardea schema that we came up with together. So the vaccination one. So we're working to not only kind of issue the credential, but we're also working on validation and verification of digital credentials issued by different authorities. So the first one we got started with, and I'm going to start sharing my screen, is the California one. So everybody that gets a vaccine in California, you guys can see my screen, I'm assuming, right? Yep. Everybody gets an opportunity, it's not automatic, but it's an opportunity to export a certificate like this. It's a QR code with some basic information about you and when you got your vaccine and which one. So this information is not encrypted. It is kind of hashed, so you can extract information from it. And this is the JSON that's actually inside once you decrypt that QR code. So this is a schema for the health card, I think it's called. So I think it's a standard that's also being used around the United States. So information that's in here is, so resource 0 is the patient. So this is me, my information. And notice that the only thing that they have about me is just my name and date of birth, and that's enough. The state of California has my email and my phone number, which is how I can, by verifying one of those, you can call them credentials, I can export my digital certificate and I can get that QR code. And also in California, so if you flash that on your phone, just like this, you can actually get into a restaurant, no problem. But if you show them a white card, in San Francisco at least, they also ask for a government ID. And at least in San Francisco they do, because they say that, oh, it's easily faked, and people just give it to each other to go into the restaurants. Interestingly enough, just showing this without verifying who I am is apparently okay. But we'll see how that works. So the information that's here is the vaccine code that I got, the date when I got that one, and where I got it, and the lot number, of course. So this vaccine code, I'm assuming people are familiar with this. This is the CVX code for the Moderna vaccine. And if you're not sure, there's a CDC has a mapping of these CVX codes. So in some digital certificates, you'll see like all of this information, right? Or maybe even the long description of the vaccine that you got. But at the end of the day, it's just the code. Also note that they record the presentation, right? Like where this particular shot came from, what kind of a vial. And for the same code, there could be multiple presentations. So we use this information together with what's in my together what's here. We also have to validate it. That is, we have access to the registry of public certificates of the issuing agency, so that we can actually validate the signature presented here somewhere to make sure that this was issued as a valid record. So the next step after we validate that this is the correct one, we go in and we map it to our vaccination credential schema. This is the schema itself, and obviously the information that we get from the California card is not sufficient to fill out everything here, but there are certain fields that we grab. So obviously the name and date of birth, that's the only information that is there about me. Then we have the facility name that issued, that gave me that vaccine. And by using this lookup table right here, we're able to also map additional information. So in effect, Global ID here is the issuer of this credential. So Global ID is the verifier, in the sense that it verifies the authenticity, the validity of the California certificate, and then it issues this credential. Now, the hope is, of course, that eventually California will be able to issue this credential right here. But there is one fundamental difference, and that is this certificate right here says that I have my COVID-19 vaccine record. So just by virtue of having this, and supposedly I can verify that it actually does belong to me, that means that I'm vaccinated. With the Cardea vaccination schema, all this says is that I got a dose. Oh, and by the way, yeah, I got 2 vaccinations, right? So we're only grabbing the second one because that is the relevant one. And so we're saying out of the 2, sort them and get the latest dose, the latest vaccination, so that we can say that the dose number is number 2. And we keep the vaccine series complete as NA, not applicable, because this will change. And this is going to be up to the proof request, up to the organization that performs the proof request, the request that the user proves that they have what they need to have for that particular situation, and that changes. So today, vaccine series complete would be true for dose number 2, but tomorrow with the booster shot, somebody will say, nope, that's not good enough for us. So we've decided to kind of move this subjective measure of completeness over to the proof request side. That's just the decision that we made. So we're only recording kind of the absolute truth that we can get out of the vaccine record here, something that is not going to change in the future. But the measure of whether this is complete or not may change in the future. So we're kind of offloading that. And so this is just for California one. We are actually working on like a very simple app that we'll present at the Interoperathon, where we have another way to export your vaccination record. So the second one is using a company called Human API. So the user would go in and say, okay, I want to import my vaccine record from my healthcare provider. So they would click continue, and they would launch into this. So Human API presents this widget, and it asks, okay, so where did you get vaccinated in? So I got vaccinated in the city of Concord, California. And it was not a mass vaccination site. It was actually at a grocery store. And unfortunately, it's none of these. So the coverage here is not ideal, but they are working on this. And this is just one more way that you can export this information. And eventually, we will also enable export of this healthcare record into the our vaccination credential. So what can you do with this? This is, again, we will be able to demonstrate this next Thursday, but we have a screening as a very simple app. So once you do get a credential like that, you're able to use Global ID wallet or any wallet for that matter to be able to prove that you have the COVID certificate or COVID credential. So actually, if I go to our staging and show you guys what this looks like. So this is specifically a demo for a high throughput environment. So imagine United Airlines tells you that there is a green corridor. If you have the Cardea vaccination credential, go here, quickly scan this QR code, and you'll be able to get through. So let me show you. So I'm scanning this. I'm using Global ID identity wallet, but wherever your credential will be stored, you'll be able to use that. So I'm going through Global ID's user experience here, and nothing changes here. Others can continue scanning this while I fumble with my phone, provide my biometric authentication. So eventually I'm going to click submit. And I get kind of into the queue of folks that have clicked submit. So now it says, okay, proof verified. And by the way, it was for Vadim. So I can go through, turnstile opens, or the agent lets me through. So this way, we've tested this. We can actually let a lot more people through than just presenting the QR code and asking and interacting with each person one-on-one. So that's sort of what we're hoping to show next Thursday.
In our demo day.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Any
Vadim,
questions?
I have some questions.
Please.
So going back to the translation from California Digital Card to the Cardea schema. So you've chosen to only issue one credential based on the second shot.
Yeah.
Technically, you could be writing 2 credentials. Yes. That's just not the path you've chosen for this moment.
Yeah, because I thought, okay, what's the point? Let's just get the latest one. The first one doesn't matter. It's the latest one that matters.
As long as you know it's the second one. But yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So in cases, and you can export this California digital card for just your first, after you get your first vaccine. and this would still work. So the dose number would be number 1. And the proof request would supposedly check that, okay, so today before booster shots, we will require that the dose number must be 2, right? So this could be ZKP-able, right? And if we accept the specific MVX code for Moderna, so let's just accept that. So there's a lot of more stuff that you can do with proof request. So I'm kind of offloading the decision of what it means to have a vaccination to the proof request side, whoever wants to implement that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the translation of the California health card to the Cardea schema from anyone?
So I have a question. So this schema has been published to Indicio test. When is it going to go to the mainnet so that we can release this to our production? Because our production works with the Indicio mainnet.
Kim, do you, I think that's probably a question best answered by you. Do you have an update?
I don't. I think we just have to get that prioritized. So that would be a question for probably James or Scott on when they want that updated into the mainnet.
Okay, I would think that it makes sense for us to at least have the interopathon to see if anything gets exposed in that process. So maybe after the interopathon, we could promote and push it to prod.
So we wouldn't be able to demo this to you guys if it's not on the mainnet, because our production app, which is something that we would invite folks to download, works with Indicio mainnet. Because right now I can only demo this on our dev environment, and we can't have everybody join our test flight for the dev version.
On a side note, Vadim, I believe we are for the interopathon. We are using the series complete flag true as the pass or fail for the interopathon.
What does that mean?
For the machine readable governance, that's
Okay.
going to cause it to pass. The series complete is the key to making that work. So right now you have series complete being left blank. That may need to change to support the interopathon success scenario.
I see, but how do we know that it's series complete? Today it's 2, tomorrow it's 3.
I agree with you.
There's no disagreement there.
Okay.
We could look at the issuance date as the series complete. It was valid at this time. So going forward, that is not the goal. But since the machine readable governance on our side wasn't ready for that, we thought we'd hit a lower bar for interoperability testing.
Got it. Okay, so we'll need to understand this part a little bit better. But is there any chance that you guys can at least post like version 1 or something?
I will get with our network operator Lynn and get that posted up to the live net for you.
Or we can actually, I mean, we can do this as well, but then the proof request would have to leave the issuer out, I guess. Yeah, we can do it. I mean, we have our own credential schema right now that we're using.
Yeah, but what I'll do is I'll submit it with the same seed that I used for the other two. And so the schema ID should be the same. So I will get with Lynn and get that updated.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Okay, and I'm just adding the important note for the interopathon. Vaccine series complete as one of the schema elements must equal, is it a Boolean yet or a yes?
True, TRUE.
That's what I thought. I should know this. I designed that.
Okay, we can update that for now. That's no problem.
The other requirement for vaccination is that it must have been 14 days in the past, I believe, for the
Yes.
Interathon.
But that's going to be part of the proof request.
Yes, that's
criteria, right?
the vaccine administration date must have been 14 days in the past.
Okay, cool.
I believe
Based
those are
on-
the two requirements for vaccination. Vaccination exemption, the expiration date must be, what is
In the
that?
future.
In the future.
So even by a few seconds is good enough for the Interathon.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. What's the critical field for vaccine exemption?
The exemption expiration date must be in the future. And then for the lab result must be negative or weakly positive. And it must have been taken, the lab specimen
than 3
collection
days.
date must have been, is that within the last 3 days?
Within, yeah, less than 3 days ago. You can also do a positive COVID test or lab result, but it must be more than 4 weeks ago. 28 days. So that's basically indicating someone had COVID and they were sick and have recovered and are no longer contagious.
Okay, I'm just making sure I get this all documented. Kim, you said it must be negative, or you used a different word that used some other language.
Weakly positive.
What does that mean?
I believe that means that it was inconclusive.
So
I
it's
can't
going to be the word negative, right? Because this is text.
Yes.
Or what's the other alternative?
I
Quote
will post
unquote
them-
weekly.
Yeah, weekly positive, and I will post that in the chat here.
Interesting. Thank you. And I am updating I have updated the notes as well. So that is documented for everybody. Okay, so let me just clean this up 1 second. Vaccine credential. Okay, excellent. All right. So I'm sorry, but we had gone through the questions on, are there any other questions on Vadim's? Thank you, Vadim, very much for presenting. Are there any questions on what Vadim did in terms of the mapping exercise? Okay, I have a question on the second thing that you showed, the human API thing. Where's it getting that data from?
From your healthcare provider. So it's so the way this works is the user logs into their healthcare provider and exports the data out and that data is being normalized in human API format. So there's a few companies out there that enable interoperability of healthcare data in the US. There's Care Everywhere, there's Epic, and then there's
Those are the
Human
same.
API. Oh yeah, well I know that was two doctors told me about these things in 2 different ways. But yes, Human API is kind of trying to compete with that, but presenting this as a consumer-facing brand, so the consumer is able to extract the data from their healthcare provider. So they normalize it. So it takes about 15-20 minutes. And then we're notified that the user has given permission to access specifically their COVID data. So they have an endpoint to extract just the COVID related stuff. But they can do other lab tests as well. In fact, we're hoping to use the lab order and lab results schemas to issue certificates and credentials based on, from Cardea based on that information. So
Got
this
it.
work
And
is
then
ongoing.
global ID is going to translate that export into the schema for now.
Yes. Yes, for now. For now, it is not our intent to kind of leave it this way and productize this, because Global ID does not want to be kind of the decision maker or the verifier of anything. But this is just a kind of a demo for how others can potentially issue a credential based on this information.
Got it. So for now, you're acting as an intermediary. The long-term vision, which I hope we all see as the long-term vision, is that that moves upstream where they would, the patient authorizes it, and then that data source just sends it out as that credential.
Exactly. So human API in this case would be the one integrating with us, with this ecosystem, and issuing credentials to the identity wallet of user's choice.
Okay. Any questions on that piece of the puzzle that Vadim graciously shared with us today? Okay, I think that our next point where we can go is any other preparations for the Interopathon. So we've discussed the requirements of the machine readable governance in order to succeed, which, as we discussed last week, we're really focused on sort of the happy paths for the Interopathon. But is there anything else that we should highlight as people prepare for that event? Trevor, are we still at 10?
I'm thinking we're either at 9 or 10. Yeah.
Okay.
We're at 9 and 10 if you include the Cardea base implementation. So
Keela, is this something that we're supposed to, I'm sorry, I'm not really on this. Are we supposed to be reserving a space, if you will, during that, or is there notifying the team about, a proposal for a test run?
Yeah, so if you want to participate, I will put the link in the chat for you now.
Okay.
1 second. Interopathon, not the easiest word to spell. So there's a Google Doc that you can say sort of what you're hoping to accomplish, and then we're pairing, right? Because we want to sort of predefine any special scenarios. So if people need a special network to test on, or if two people are trying to test something that has a synergy, right? They both want to test something related as a piece of the process, then we'll connect those together. So yes, it would be helpful if you plan to participate in the Interopathon to RSVP in that Google Doc. I will also put it in our meeting notes for today.
Thanks very much.
No problem. And I'm sure there will be others. This is the first of what will be more to come. All right. Any other questions on the Interopathon, or from the Indicio side, if there's anything else to highlight as people prepare to participate next week?
We'll be sending out, I believe, the example implementation, reference implementation later today. And I believe that's getting emailed out. Is that correct, Mike?
yes, we'll also
To the
post,
participants.
yes, to the participants who've registered. We'll also be posting it on the Cardea GitHub so that the instructions and URLs can be found there.
Excellent. You said today.
Today. It was going to be Tuesday, but you know how software is, but we're going to be done today though. We finally made it.
Great. I'm not even sure what day of the week it is, except that I'm on this call. So that's fine. Are there any questions around the issuing of that reference implementation for anyone that's on the phone with us today? Okay, I know the team is working on sort of an agenda for how we're going to tackle this session. I can just give a little bit of insight into that. So I think we're going to start in a common room. We'll sort of do a couple of level sets from that point, get everybody on the same page, and then we'll break out into rooms for 30-minute time slots. So we'll have breakout rooms on our web meetings with pre-matched partners for testing. There will be a person from Indicio on each breakout room to help and facilitate. And then there will also be people in the main room. If anybody needs help, you can always come back to the main room and we can then jump into your breakout room with you to help with anything that may come up. But the testing plan is 30-minute slots. I don't know, Kim or Mike, if you have anything else to add to that, sort of what to expect day of.
That's accurate. The first 2 slots will be the Indicio employees helping one company at a time to test against the Cardea reference implementation. And then the remaining 4 slots will be companies paired up with each other with an Indicio helper to make sure, to try out various interoperation use cases among different companies and not just with Cardea-based implementation. That's why one of the reasons it's important to register ahead of time, so we can put you into a slot to have help with the Cardea reference implementation and to try and pair you with the companies you're most interested in trying interactions with, or, so we can make sure that we don't have duplicated pairings or someone left out, things like that.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions as we prep for next week? I'm not sure which Ebert to ask, but do we have in the reference implementation, do we have the dummy people we're going to test with? Is that part of the reference code that's going out today, or does that need to be documented?
It's manually issued. And so there's no automated API in this case.
Okay, but if you're verifying, I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
No, that'll be added later in governance to determine what cred defs are acceptable in the future.
Okay. Okay, well, we had originally slated for some discussion on internationalization and also data tagging, sensitive data tagging in our schemas. But unfortunately, we're missing our guest speaker on that topic. So we'll have to bump that to a future agenda. I believe that our next agenda, so next week we're doing the Interopathon. We have 1 week off, the week of the 16th, which will fill, perhaps we'll bump this agenda to that. And then we have the demo day, which is scheduled for the 23rd, which is an extended meeting as well. So if you haven't blocked your calendar, you may want to do that. I think we've booked 2 hours for demo day on the 23rd. Other than that, I think we might be done for today, unless there are other comments or questions. Okay, so I'm going to give you 20 minutes back, and I look forward to talking to you all next week at the Interopathon.
Thank you, Keela.
You're welcome. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.